Hello everyone, welcome back to Be the Whole You. My name is Gulveg, and today we're going to be talking about this very potent new beginning that this new moon on May 7th and 8th, 2024, new moon in Taurus, that this milestone represents. This is a really powerful alignment, and I'm super excited to be talking about it. And then after the astrological reading, as is the usual, we will also get some additional insight using some tarot and see if we can get some more details on how best to leverage this. Because if you've been waiting for a time to pull the trigger on something, a new project, a new idea, or to make a big change of any sorts, now is probably a really good time to do that. So let's just get into it. So on May 7th and 8th, the sun and the moon, they come together. They're both at 18 degrees in Taurus. And that's what happens during the new moon, is that the sun and the moon, they become conjunct, and then we can't see the moon in the sky. But those aren't the only things that are conjuncting in the sky this time. It's a very busy conjunction this time around. So in addition to the new moon in Taurus, where the sun and the moon are conjuncting, we also have Venus at 10 degrees in Taurus. I usually look at like 10 degrees as being a conjunction. Then we also have Uranus at 22 degrees in Taurus. So those are pretty close. You know, we have Uranus that is only 4 degrees difference, and Venus that's 8 degrees. Jupiter is a little bit more of a soft conjunction at 25 degrees in Taurus. So we have the sun, the moon, Venus, Uranus, and Jupiter. They're all playing together. And Venus is the ruler of wealth, of beauty. She is the ruler of the sign of Taurus, so she's right at home in this energy of Taurus. And Taurus is also a earth sign that helps us build things, and it's associated with all practical matters of home, health, wealth, tangible physical change. And I say change because Uranus is the great change agent. So Pluto is about death and rebirth, but Uranus comes in and is associated with new perspective. It's associated with technology. It's associated with working together as a team because it's the ruler of Aquarius. And it also is associated with the big change, like revolutions. So when Uranus comes in and it starts playing with a bunch of other planets, then it means that there's something within that alignment that is shifting and changing, probably in a big way. And then that's only amplified by Jupiter. And Jupiter is the big amplifier. Jupiter amplifies anything it touches. So we have Uranus and Jupiter that are already conjunct. That conjunction is a big deal, and that happened a couple weeks ago. I covered that a little bit in the last video when we did the full moon. And that conjunction is now in conjunction with Venus. So it means that the changes that are taking place are going to be tangible. They're going to really affect our physical world. So sometimes the change might be more spiritual or more emotional in nature. And we've had a lot of that kind of energy, especially really over the last few years, but especially over the last couple of months. This time around, the change is very much a tangible type of thing. So we've had a lot of Aries energy over the last couple of months, and especially with the eclipse. The eclipse was like Aries, Aries, Aries all over the place. And the sign of Aries is, what I look at as the gift of Aries, the major gift, is that it teaches us about the sovereign self. Aries is about numero uno. It's about the self, which of course has a flip side to that. But for those of us who kind of struggle more on the opposite end of the spectrum, where we are either martyrs, victims, feel like that the world might take advantage of us, or we overgive, codependency, the disease to please, the imbalances in which we are giving away our power to other people. Aries can teach us how to bring that back. Aries can teach us how to have a new relationship with ourselves. And if it's balanced, it can teach us a deeper meaning of self-love. Sometimes I think Aries energy, because it's associated with Mars, gets a little bit of a bad rep, where it's looked at as being selfish and combative, or self-centered and that type of thing. But it can also balance those of us who have more of a tendency to give our power away, even if that's unconscious. So over the last couple of months, Aries has been steeping us in this lesson after lesson of helping us reclaim our sovereignty, reclaim our independence, to reclaim our personal power, our truth, and the right to express that truth, the right to have a voice and to be heard. And also how we discern. That's a big part of our own sovereignty. How do we discern what is right for us and what is not? How do we discern truth from lies? So all of that has been steeping over the last couple of months. And with this new moon, we now are able to take all of that hard work, all of the things that we have been healing and balancing, and we're able to place it in a practical application in our life, where we are going to be able to see tangible fruits of our labor. So, everything starts with the relationship to the self. If we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, if we're not compassionate with ourselves, if we are judgmental, or what I call the itty bitty shitty committee back here, if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, that it will affect every area of our life. Everything starts with the relationship with ourselves. That's why over the last couple of months, you've probably been hearing me, if you've been following these videos, I've been talking about how we're excavating the landscape of our life, and we're building new foundations. And in the last full moon video, I was talking about how we're getting clear and the excavation process is coming to a completion, but it wasn't quite time yet to pull the trigger to start building whatever it is that comes next for us. At least for most of us, it wasn't time. Mercury was in retrograde. It's not in retrograde anymore. It came out of retrograde April 25th. And now with all of this energy, with Jupiter and Uranus, Venus, the sun and the moon, all in this earth sign of Taurus, it is now a proper time to move forward with your plans. You now can step into that next phase. The other thing that is interesting, that's just kind of popping out at me just at this moment, is Uranus is at 22 degrees in Taurus, and 22 is one of the master builder numbers in numerology. So sometimes folks will, they combine astrology with numerology, which I think is a really fascinating combination. And 22 is a master builder number. So I think that that's kind of an interesting detail, but I digress. So one of the other things too is that because Uranus is in play with this new beginning, don't be afraid to take an unconventional approach. So if you have been thinking about, stepping into whatever your next phase is, and you aren't exactly sure, or you're trying to work out the details of what that next phase looks like, it's okay if the approach that you take is the path less traveled. Or if, because there's Uranus and Jupiter together. Uranus is actually in favor of the new approach, of the unconventional idea, the new perspective. So if there has been a bit of the itty bitty shitty committee that is telling you that people aren't going to get it, or you're going to be judged, or it's not going to work, or maybe you should just do the tried and true thing, maybe experiment with and just be curious about what might happen if you blaze a trail versus use a trail that's already trodden. So the other thing that this new moon trines the midheaven in Capricorn at 17 degrees. So Capricorn is highly effective at overcoming obstacles. It's associated with the sea goat. So it can go to high heights, and it can go to very deep depths. And it's associated with the billy goat. And the billy goat is an amazing creature. Without hands, it can traverse high mountains and live in really high altitudes. And it will be just on the very tippy edge of a cliff and not fall. It's got such amazing balance. And so Capricorn is incredibly tenacious, and one of the things that is kind of the gift of Capricorn is where others say I can't and decide to not even try sometimes or give up too early, Capricorn's going to ask how. And so this is allowing us to overcome a lot of obstacles that we either may have assumed are there. A lot of people don't get started with things simply because they assume that the answer is going to be no. They assume that they're going to be rejected. So folks don't even try, because if you try, it's going to feel harder if you're let down and you're disappointed. So this new moon is saying, any of that kind of feeling, any of that kind of mentality, just put it on a shelf. You can always pick it up if you want to later, because now is the time to try those new ideas. Now is the time for a fresh start. Now is the time to experiment and to perhaps do things in a way that you haven't done before. Try that new hobby. Bounce the ideas off of other people who have perhaps done something like that before. Sign up for the training or the course that you have been thinking about signing up for. Create the content channel based on a particular theme that you are passionate about. Create the artwork that you've been, milling about. Like, all of those things are the things that it's time to move forward with. Also our relationships, because Venus is also is associated with love, and it's part of this conjunction. Our relationships might be might be overhauled. So chances are, if that's the case, it's probably something that has been in the works for a while, that you probably have known that these relationships are going to change. For some of us, it may be an abrupt change that we didn't expect, but I think for most of us, that's not going to be the case. That we've known that the relationships are changing, and this new moon might be the thing that that initiates the big shift. And so, of course, that's a bit of a mixed bag, right? That can be good, and it can be painful, and it can be even both. And a lot of times, it's a mixed bag. Know, though, that this is all about initiating a new phase. So if there is some grief that's associated, if there are things that have needed to be removed in order to move on, if there are certain relationships where they just weren't meant to follow you into the next phase, it's going to be okay. This new moon is all about creating a new chapter, and even though it's very normal, and it's it's human and perhaps even healthy in some ways to grieve what was, the next chapter, I truly believe, is going to be just as beautiful, perhaps even more so, than what it was that was left behind. If we don't allow ourselves to let go of things, then life becomes pretty stagnant and pretty stale. And it doesn't necessarily mean that relationships have to be let go either. An overhaul could just mean that the nature of the relationship changes, that, you know, you come to new terms, new understandings, new perspectives. Perhaps, you know, a long distance relationship becomes not long distance anymore. There's a lot of other elements in which this could show up. So, you know, it's tangible change as well as change in our love life. So back to the Capricorn, back to the midheaven Capricorn trine. This will allow us to also take calculated risks. So it can enhance our confidence. It will give us more of a methodical approach. Capricorn is very methodical. And also this sextiles, the moon sextiles Saturn in Pisces at 17 degrees. And then that sextiles the midheaven as well. So that's also a very interesting kind of a connection, is that you have Saturn that's also a big player in this too. And Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So Saturn is also very methodical. It's associated with time. It's associated sometimes with limitation, but in this particular case, I don't think it's the limitation that is like really annoying and frustrating. It's more about creating structure. And because of all of the new shift and the new changes here, there isn't really a restrictive quality to this new moon. It's more about creating a container for whatever it is that we are wanting to grow, to gestate, or to build. The creative process, it needs to have some sort of limitation without it, because without any kind of container or structure, it ends up just becoming chaotic, and that structure helps that energy, that creative energy, to condense enough to where we actually create some sort of practical result from it. Creativity is going to be off the charts for a lot of people. In part because this is also conjuncting Neptune at 29 degrees in Pisces. And again, Neptune is at home, just like Venus is at home in Taurus. We have Neptune at home in Pisces, and then it also sextiles Mars that's at home in Aries. Like, oh, everybody's all nice and cozy and home. Like it's nice. It's nice. There isn't a lot of that friction where you have a planet that doesn't like to be in its opposite. So because it's conjuncting Neptune in Pisces, we're going to have heightened intuition, heightened creativity, imagine the possibilities, getting out of these boxes that we tend to put ourselves in. There are structures, but then when the structure becomes so rigid that there is no room for growth, for expansion, if the structure that we're in doesn't have windows, then it ends up becoming like a jail-like cave. We want to have structure. We don't want to box ourselves in. And this is allowing us to have a little bit more perspective on how to tell whether or not we're putting ourselves in a cave or if we're just building a new structure. And then the sextile with Mars and Aries is going to really bring up to, like, right here. It's going to be so obvious. This question is going to be obvious. The answer may be something that might need to be worked with, and the energy of Neptune, I think, will help us explore this. Is what is it that you're not willing to compromise for your freedom? So, for example, like if you, actually the example could come with a relationship. If there's, for example, there has been certain sacrifices of our own sovereignty, our own personal freedom, that no longer feel reciprocal, because sometimes we have to make certain choices in life that may limit our freedom for a variety of reasons. We may need to stay in a particular city that limits our freedom of choice, right? Because we have a particular job that's serving us, or we have, you know, a school that we want to go to. Perhaps there's a loved one we're taking care of. And then there's the compromises that are not serving us. They're not, it's not because it's necessarily the right thing to do. A lot of times, I think sometimes it's easy to play that, I don't know, that card where it's like, no, it's just the right thing to do. Well, is it, in what way is it not only just, is it serving you, or in what way is it helping you to be at peace inside? If it's disturbing your peace, if it's robbing you of energy, opportunity, if draining your money, if there are certain toxic relationships that you have made personal compromises for whatever reason, whether or not it's, you know, because of codependency or needing or being afraid of what people think, or it's something that's a little bit more tangible, like your livelihood is associated with these individuals. If or a job, for example, that's a really good example, because, you know, money is at their very root, right? And you know, so you might have made too many compromises personally, for example, to keep this job, or you may have made too many compromises in a particular friendship, and you realize that you have given up too much of your freedom and it's actually not serving you anymore, or perhaps it didn't serve you at all in the first place. So those kind of things are going to be like right up here, and even though they're not incredibly comfortable to look at, Mars in Aries is going to allow us to have the courage and the gusto and the amplification of our own free will to be clear on what it is that we need to do about it. And not only that, it's not even going to be, I mean, it's about courage, but it's also about this fire inside of like, what is the kind of life that I really want and deserve? And how can I just go out there and just get it? Because the other thing about Neptune as well, in this, as far as how it's aligning with everything else, is that there is less of a need for any kind of validation for your dreams with this new moon. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It is simply going for your dream simply because it's your dream. That's it. Bottom line. It's about going for the life that you want to build for your life, for yourself. Just because that's what you desire. And that's good enough. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, or if anybody else believes in it. You believe in it, and that's enough. And with this Mars, Neptune, Venus, Jupiter, Uranus symphony of new beginning support, then you can do it. You can absolutely do it. And so along with that, just on a side note, if you have wanted to start a business this week, like especially in the few days around this new moon, this would be a really good day, a good energy to make the birthday of a new business, a new relationship, or something of that nature. Because when you start a business, or when you start like a creative project, it has a birthday. And so that energy will be kind of a hallmark for its entirety. So anything that you wanted to try, anything that's big, like if you wanted to start a podcast, if you've wanted to write that book, if you've wanted to paint that painting, the birthday of that project will affect the energy that surrounds it. So this would be a really good energy to leverage anything of that nature and make it its birthday. So the other thing too about the sextile with Saturn, as well as the midheaven in Capricorn, is that even though we're thinking out of the box, we're able to take a methodical approach enough to ask ourselves, how can my dreams be expressed practically? So the really important thing here, and as far as like how you're deciding to leverage this, is to get clear on what is the essence of what it is that you want to create. So instead of just finding something that solves a problem. So for example, if you're not happy with your job, and so then sometimes we can go into almost like a desperation when we're uncomfortable and just find the next thing and just like, well, I just need something that's better than this, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not really what I want. I just need something that's better than what I'm dealing with now. That's not the energy of this new moon. This energy of this new moon is like, baby, shoot for the stars. Like, you don't have to compromise. It's great that you're willing to, but you don't have to. You can just go for it. Just go for it. And see what happens, because with this new moon, if it's worth the work, you will achieve results. And I totally believe in the saying that if you shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon. So you got nothing to lose. Just go for it. So essentially, this new moon is like a go get 'em tiger kind of energy. And I find it incredibly refreshing, because for a really long time, we've had a lot of energy where it's kind of like, we've been sitting at the start line, and there's been all of this energy inside of us where we're feeling itchy, especially after the eclipse with all of that Aries energy. Like there was a lot of itchiness around that. Like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Is the guy gonna pull the trigger? Are we gonna run to the races yet? And now it's like, yes, go. Like the trigger has been pulled. It's time to go. So yeah, now is the time to take action. So let's take a look and see what the cards have to say. For those of you who are joining me, I always invite you to set the intention that whatever part of this generalized tarot reading really speaks to you and the circumstances that you are navigating, that you will know instinctively which part is most pertinent for you. All right, so ask our best and highest good. Our divine highest self. How best might we utilize the energy of this new moon in Taurus, May 7th and 8th, 2024. All right, so the very first card that comes up is the Lover's card reversed. So yeah, there's definitely going to be some shifts and some changes within our relationships. Probably most likely our intimate relationships, but for some of us it could be other types of relationships too. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a lover. The next card that comes up is the Princess of Swords. So this is, in this particular case, where it's in conjunction with the Lover's card, the change and shift that happens is coming from a place of enhanced clarity, enhanced communication. So even if the shift itself isn't something that we're completely jazzed about, it is based on truth. It's based on what's real, not on what we hope to be real or what we would like the truth to be. So it's really cutting through any kind of the ways that we placate, the ways that we might, bend truth, so to speak, to create a perspective that we prefer. Or in some cases, there may be some folks that might find out some things within their relationships that might have been outright lies. And if that's the case, I'm very sorry that if you're one of those folks who finds that, I'm really sorry. That's always very hurtful. Truth is one of those things that people always say that they want, but they typically have a bias on what kind of truth it is that they're willing to receive. And this is saying that even if that is the case and the truth that you get is not necessarily something that you're really wanting to hear, it in the long run, it is going to again, off to the races. The Prince of Swords is a very fast acting, fast moving character. And, you know, I would say sometimes he's a warning of kind of like a presumptuous kind of action. But in this case, I don't think so, because then we have the Ten of Wands that comes up right reversed. And this is a card that's more positive when it's in its reversal. It's time to stop working so hard. Work smarter, not harder, right? And so with this clarity and this clear communication and knowing exactly where you stand, there is more freedom there's not like this anchor behind us, right? Like, so even if a truth might be something that we prefer, or a lie might be something that we prefer, it will create subconscious baggage, because on some level we know that our external reality is not congruent with what it is that we know and feel to be true. So when there's an incongruence, it creates weight that makes it harder to move forward. And it will make our life easier overall. Like, you know, this guy, like, where I was just talking about weight, the 10 wands, the bundle of wands is a weight, it's a type of baggage. So this is about clearing the baggage. It's about clearing the baggage, letting it go. And it's almost like, the thing that comes to my mind is, like, again, like building the house, right? I talked about in the last video, excavating, laying down the foundation. We already have the blueprints. We have a feeling of what it is that we want to have come next. And now with this clear declaration of what it is that we want, and this willingness to just cut through whatever it is that is not needed, whatever it is that is not true, that is in our way, we're able to move forward so much more quickly and with less cumbersome burdens. The other thing too, though, about the Lover's card that I just want to say is that it doesn't necessarily mean, again, that the relationship is going to end, but that it will probably change. So even if it doesn't end, it will transform. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's going to create more freedom for everyone in the long run. So again, go get them, Tiger. I'm really curious in the comments below if you can remember to do so, if you've either have already experienced some of this energy already bubbling up to the surface, or if over the next couple of weeks going into the next full moon at the middle of the month, I'd be interested to hear if how this might have played out for you guys, if you're willing to share. I think that would be really interesting to hear. So thank you all for joining me here. If you could hit that like button, if you found this useful, if you found it insightful, or even just entertaining, if you could hit that like button and or subscribe, the bell icon, all the things, that of course really helps the channel and helps to make this available to other people. All right, folks, have an exciting couple of weeks, and I'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.